Hello, I'm Philip Stoten. I'm here at Apex 2019 and I'm on the SCOOPstudio to discuss the topic of tariffs and trade wars. I've got three gentlemen from various different parts of the industry. We've got Scott from Southwest Systems. Scott, thanks for joining me. Matthew from Asteelflash, which is a large EMS company, and Chris from IPC, who kind of takes care of that side of things with IPC. If I can start with you, Chris, can you just give me a brief overview of the work that IPC is doing in the area of tariffs?
Great. So I represent IPC in Washington and around the world before policymakers.
Okay.
So our job is to speak for the industry as government considers these big, weighty decisions related to trade. Right. In response to the administration's, the Trump administration's trade actions on China, we've gotten a real wide array of responses from the industry, very vocal responses, of course. And so we have been seeking both to help understand what's happening within the industry so that we can speak on their behalf in Washington, but also educate the industry about what's going on. And so to that end, we've taken efforts to make sure that we're educating our members about both the tariffs, the exclusion process, and in addition, we've been talking directly to policymakers about what are the real impacts that these tariffs are having across the country.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what's interesting there, Chris, as you said about people being very vocal, I wonder if they see you as a bit of a therapist and an opportunity to vent their frustration some of the time. I'm sure that happens.
Certainly a lot of venting, but a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Right? And quite frankly, there's not a lot of certainty in this process.
Yeah.
That much is clear.
Yeah.
Right? And so as companies try to navigate this landscape, what we're trying to do is trying to ascertain what intelligence we can and give it to them so they can make the best decisions possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Matthew, as a global contract manufacturer, you've got to deal with that from various different viewpoints. You've got customers asking you to move their stuff to different locations. What has the reaction been from your customers?
So, again, pretty much every customer reacts to tariffs differently, right? I mean, they have their own reaction according to their business. We do have US-based customers, with US being their main market, and they're manufacturing in China, and they found a way to classify their product a little differently, so they were not impacted by tariffs. So for them, it's a different reaction than for somebody else that is directly impacted, and they're really looking at a quick and easy way to mitigate that risk, right? And so the particularity of our footprint and the way we're organized, having a facility in China, but also having locations in Mexico here or in the US, was that we are able to accommodate our customers' requirements. We do the analysis on the bill of materials. We can help our customers qualify this product as a NAFTA product, for example. Then they're no longer impacted by tariffs for the content that is in NAFTA. So we went through all of that for our customers, and the fact that having the same machines, the same ERP system, the same MES at each of our 18 locations made it very easy to transfer projects from China to Tijuana, Mexico, in a very efficient way, and that's what we've done for some of our customers.
Yeah, and Scott, from your point of view, your principals are from all around the world. You're bringing equipment into the US, you're shipping equipment to Mexico as well. Understanding exactly what equipment is going to have what tariff at what time must be a big challenge for you.
Right. I mean, the question that gets asked with every quote, especially if they know it's coming from somewhere overseas, sometimes they don't know where, is who's paying the tariffs, how are the tariffs being handled, so on and so forth. And it becomes a budgeted line item in their mind that they need to account for. We've also seen in some cases where people are holding off placing orders, hoping that it'll go away, and they won't have to pay for it. So it does affect the timing of orders as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my concerns, that because people aren't sure about visibility on tariffs, you get this latency building up in the market and people waiting. Chris, is that something you see, and how do you advise your members on, kind of what you see as the timeline for tariffs, or this kind of trade standoffs we find ourselves in at the moment?
Well, we certainly see a wide range of responses by businesses. In some cases, businesses have already shifted their supply chains. I think in many cases you have companies that are waiting to get a little bit more certainty before they respond. I have talked to companies that said last year, we're going to wait a year and we'll see what the outlook looks like, and then we'll begin to shift our supply chain accordingly. In terms of a timeline, right now, in fact this week, U.S. and Chinese negotiators are set to speak. In late November, early December, there was a 90-day truce put on any additional tariffs. We're coming up on the deadline for that truce. I don't think we should expect much in terms of big announcements around any trade deals. On the other hand, I think we could see some symbolic concessions and perhaps a pathway for further talks on more meaningful structural changes in the trade relationships. But these are complex issues, and you're certainly not going to resolve them in a 90-day period.
No.
And so we'll have to see what comes of it. Again, we at IPC are fully supportive of these kinds of bilateral discussions and hope that they will continue. And in time, perhaps we can begin to address some of the issues the two countries have with each other.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Matthew, when you look at it from your point of view, have you put off any CapEx decisions? Has it impacted you in terms of strategy of what you're doing in terms of growing your business?
I wouldn't say that it impacted our CapEx strategy or any new investment, because specifically for us, our Chinese facility is not only serving North American markets, but we have a lot of French customers, German customers, and so they're impacted by tariffs, but not as if they were just supplying the U.S., right? Yeah. So our Chinese facility is kind of safe from that point of view, right? And then the projects that we did transfer from China to Mexico, and we really were cautious in the way we were going to pitch and position ourselves to our customers, because our customers just, comes to us and ask for questions, right? And ask for help. How are you going to help me mitigate my supply chain risk and go through these tariffs? And as I was saying, every customer has specific requirements, and we don't want to transfer now and then, let's say 3 months from now, the tariffs are gone, and you don't want to transfer back, right? We're not going to do that over and over. So the fun part was that a lot of our customers realized that China was not necessarily the best choice in the first place anyway.
Okay.
Because their main market was in North America the whole time. And if you take a look at the total cost of ownership plus the tariffs, then Mexico made sense all along, for example, right? So we try to bring all these data to our customers so they can make the decisions and what's best for them. And because at the end of the day, as a contract manufacturer, that's also what we do, right? And if they want to transfer rapidly, then we'll do it, and we can. We have the resources to do it and to make it happen quickly. But we're also here to be their long-term partner. Right?
Yeah. Scott, I think what's really interesting there is you get this kind of byproduct of tariffs where people are reassessing their manufacturing footprint and maybe thinking, hey, I should have been manufacturing in Mexico all along. Yep. Is that something that resonates with you?
Yeah, I've written articles on reshoring and what it really means, and a lot of times it doesn't mean coming to the U.S. It is going to Mexico or something. So, it's an interesting process to watch the work move around and where it actually ends up. I mean, some does come back to the U.S., but a lot of it has ended up in Mexico facilities and such. And so, I think it's interesting though, because the tariff is one company's burden, but it can be another company's selling point. So I mean, when you talk about moving supply chain around, what you're doing is you're basically saying, this company has a feature that another company doesn't have, and so it becomes a bargain, if you will. So it's interesting to watch that move. Working with people with their solder paste requirements, it's one of the first things that's asked, and it's one of the benefits of the product that we work with is that it's tariff free because it doesn't come out of China. So it's interesting. It can be another person's attribute. Yeah,
and it's your job to recognize what the attributes of each product are and let people know. Last question for you, Chris. I know you can't predict what's going to happen, but what you can do is educate and keep people informed. How do the IPC go about doing that?
We send out both briefing memos as well as alerts. And in addition, we're hosting webinars. In fact, this past year, we've held some of our most successful webinars The response to this trade issue has been just incredible.
Yeah, of course.
And so as we look ahead into 2019, we'll be doing a lot more of these webinars, as well as actual in-person events as well.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and I think when it comes down to it, Chris, if you can keep everybody's finger on the pulse, it just allows these guys to make the best decisions, and gives Scott the advantage of selling whichever product has got the best advantage at the right time. Absolutely. Guys, great to talk to you. Thank you very much for that insight, and thank you for your time.